Does the Bible talk about a refugee crisis of epic proportions? So, the next prediction we have to tackle from the World Economic Forum is the impending refugee crisis. Not just any refugee crisis, but one caused by climate change. Here's the prediction. Or is it a declaration? A billion people will be displaced by climate change. We'll have to do a better job of welcoming and integrating refugees. I really don't mean to be suspicious of everything these people are trying to shove down our throats. Neither do I enjoy sounding cynical, but one has to wonder, isn't there an implication that the refugees will be moving to more developed nations? Why isn't climate change affecting the developed nations? Why don't we prepare those underdeveloped nations now? The World Economic Forum, with its wealthy members, are more than capable of making technology available to those lesser developed nations. After all, they paid $600,000 just to be members of the World Economic Forum. Dig into those pockets, guys, and let's ensure that these poor people don't have to leave their homes. Why migrate, right? Well, unfortunately, this is not going to happen. There will be mass migration. The Bible tells us this. But it won't be because of climate change. Even if it seems that way, it won't be. As a matter of fact, the people of America are quite familiar with the number of immigrants advancing towards its borders. Many of these people were actually paid by wealthy people, some of who are in the World Economic Forum, to approach the borders of America. But, as usual, I digress. That's an old video. Go back and watch it. These billionaires certainly have an agenda. So, does the Bible talk about a refugee crisis of epic proportions? It does. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, the Bible makes mention of Elam. Jeremiah 49, 35-36 says, "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. And upon Elam will I bring 4 winds from the 4 quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all those winds. And there shall be no nation whether the outcast of Elam shall not come." Elam is modern-day Iran. Biblical scholars believe that something will occur in Iran that will drive its inhabitants to dwell in every nation on the earth. This nation will provoke God to anger, and as a result, the Lord will scatter them. The nature of this provocation is not known, but it may have something to do with Iran's desire to see the nation of Israel wiped off the face of the earth. According to the World Net Daily, Iran has stated that they have thousands of missiles to rain on Israel. Iran is not only a threat to Israel, but to the US and other Middle Eastern nations as well. An Iranian commander, who is no more, claimed, "We have targets within America," according to the Daily Caller. The scripture gives us a slight indication as to the nature of Iran's fall. The Lord declared that he will break the bow of Elam, meaning their fall will circumnavigate its military and assault capabilities. Their boast of having 50 to 100 nuclear warheads by 2024 may just as well be the demise of them. Now, this does not necessarily mean that an enemy will attack Elam and destroy it. It could mean that a failure within their main nuclear facility, which happens to be in the heart of ancient Elam, would send the inhabitants of Iran running. The World Economic Forum predicts 1 billion people will be displaced. If it has to be so, then this incident would not only affect Iran, but its neighbors as well. Given the track record of the sources of information in this present time, like the mainstream media, we may never know the nature of Iran's refugee crisis. It could be described as an attack from Israel, which most likely it would be. They could be honest and cite human error, hardly likely, or they could say climate change. They might as well. Either way, I assure you, a disaster of such proportions will definitely be twisted to suit some political agenda. According to one very dead fella, never let a good crisis go to waste. It has been proven in the past that even in modern times, people have been herded like cattle to accomplish some political ambition. In order for the nations to accommodate the migration of 1 billion people, a single governing body will be needed. In other words, who would have thought that a refugee crisis would have been in the best interests of those trying to integrate the world under one governing body? Then again, who would have thought that a thing like a global pandemic would be beneficial? Who would have thought that it would help speed up the approach to a global reset? I know, this guy. Like a vulture to the carcass, the kings of the earth will flock to the true inhabitants of Persia, who will be scattered across the globe. But God promises in Jeremiah 49 and 39, "But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord." There's a great spiritual awakening occurring in Iran, and as these people are scattered, they believe they will take the gospel of Jesus Christ back to the nations. Whether this be so or not, one thing that is for certain, the Lord will bring them back to their land again. If you want to find out more about this prophecy, there's a link in the description to an article by Bill Solis. I'm not saying that this is the only refugee crisis that will occur in the world. I'm sure that others will occur. To date, the migrant situations across the world have been severe. Now that we've learned of the pitfalls of mass migration, I assure you that there are others who've learned of the potential benefits of it. Unfortunately, those that have calculated these benefits will stop at nothing to attain them, even if it means the demise of millions. Most of the predictions made by the World Economic Forum to this point require some sort of human intervention in order to make them possible, including famine. Climate change, however, is a whole different ballgame. If the climate doesn't change severely enough to drive people from their land, then mass migration will have to include some sort of force or manipulation. I sincerely hope it doesn't come to that. Manipulation is rampant in our society. So this demands that we be walking in the Spirit constantly. Our desires must be transcendent. As we've seen, the very food we eat, or the things we own, even our internal organs, and now the nations in which we dwell will be up for grabs. What does this tell you? All is vanity. Accepting the salvation of Jesus Christ is the only thing that will endure into eternity. It is the only thing that is worth fighting for. Sadly, salvation is the thing that many regard the least. In the final analysis, as humanity begins to cave beneath the weight of its own ambition, they that trust in the Lord will be as Mount Zion, which will not be removed, but will abide forever. Now think about that.